Hello and welcome to Rainbow History Class, the queer and trans history that you probably don't get in school. My name is Rudy Jean Rigg.
And my name is Hannah, and I'm excited for this week, Rue. I haven't had a story from you in a little while.
I know it's been almost 2 months since I have crawled out of my depths and brought to you something interesting. Thanks for covering while I was both sick and also vastly unprepared.
You're welcome.
No, I really am. I really am grateful. Today, though, I have got part one of a story for you. The reason being was every time I've thought that I'd finished covering and researching this guy, something else popped up, or I found another little tidbit that I wanted to explore, and it just seemed to never end.
The never-ending story of whom?
Aleister Crowley. The reason that I was so interested in this guy is because he's known as Beast 666 and also has been quoted to be the wickedest man in the world.
I feel like this guy just has a Tumblr account.
I know. I'm like, what's his Tumblr URL?
Beast 666, the wickedest man in the world.
With hyphens in between every word. Yeah. This part one, listen, okay, like I said, his life is so full. Literally every year is accounted for almost because he has a massive ego and he wrote this big memoir and detailed his entire life. And so I had a lot to trudge through. But what got me was that even though this man had detailed his whole life, it seems as though he lived a double one. And so and that's why I said to you a few weeks ago, Hannah, I'm not ready. This guy's just sent me through sent a spanner in the works, and I just had to go back. So
you've been holed up in Aleister Crowley's hole,
yeah,
and you finally become ready to emerge.
It was so bad as well that all of my algorithms got changed to
Crowley core.
Yeah, basically lots of demons, lots of found footage of vampires and random
stuff. As if that's
stuff.
Not your just general algorithm. What are you talking about? What changed from what?
No, but it went from the girly pops to these disheveled men guys, I'm back again here. Look, I found some more footage for you. It went from
To be honest, the girly pops is more surprising than the disheveled demon hunters.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm hooked into the demon hunters and, I always thought you were there with me, but
no, I am, but they're quite disconcerting. Sometimes you just watch one too many and you think, what's that noise? And it was just the microwave going off. That's what that kind of vibe gives to me.
I've seen Supernatural.
I don't want to talk to you about Supernatural. Anyway, let's start with this guy's full life. I want to take you back to when he was born.
That's a good place to start if you're looking at a full life.
Hey, sometimes people, they don't really come into this world until their late 20s.
When they come out.
Yeah, frontal lobes formed. They figure out lots of things about themselves. His name is Edward Alexander Crowley, and he was born in Leamington Spa, England on October 12th of 1875. So he's a Scorpio, I think.
No, Libran.
October 12th.
Is a Libra.
Is it?
I bet he wishes he was a Scorpio.
Let's see.
Everybody wishes they were a Scorpio.
No, see, this is the thing. I didn't feel like he was a Scorpio. This is me just talking shit now, but I didn't think that he was a Scorpio, mostly because
the occultist thing, it has Scorpio vibes.
It does, but then something was telling me that I was wrong, and I was wrong, so that's fine.
He's a Libran, a wannabe Scorpio.
All right. So his family was from a strict fundamentalist Christian sect, and that's how he grew up. And so he was really raised with a thorough knowledge of the Bible, and he went on to study at Trinity College at the University of Cambridge, which I looked up on a map and I have been to, which is really interesting and kind of freaky.
What do you mean? You looked up on a map and you've been to? I know you've been to Cambridge. Why did you need a map to know I've been there?
No, because, okay, listen, have you ever been to or looked at a map of Cambridge?
No.
Okay, so it's a freaking massive place. You think, Cambridge is a quaint, nice town, which it is. There's a lot of colleges there, and the thing with the colleges is they're quite spread out and there's lots of lanes, and it's if you go to one doesn't mean you've been to all of them. It's just if
So what you're saying is you went to Trinity College at Cambridge.
I walked through the grounds, yes. Confirmed.
Okay, got it.
Which I was
just so funny to me. It's a pretty famous place, and you're so the first thing I did was I got out a map, and there I identified that I have in fact been there. It's what were you taking in when you were there the first time? Just nothing.
No, okay, listen, this is when I was at Cambridge. I did not study there, unfortunately, but I have a friend who has. Mary, Iconoclast, if you're interested in art history, go check her out. But I was visiting her there and we were doing do you remember those videos we did?
I remember.
Okay, great. So we actually had to break in to we didn't break in. We told a white lie about the fact that I was a student, which I wasn't, but I guess we're all students of life, aren't we? So where's the lie? I can't find one. And we got into this church. Anyway, during that day, that was when I kind of found myself walking around Trinity College. I don't know if I went in there because they have quite strict security, but I was definitely at least at the front gates. Anyway.
So basically you just went in and you were ye old English stuff.
I love it.
I'm not sure if I was in there, but I was in there.
Listen, there was a part of my soul that has not left Cambridge and it's still.
I'm worried you need to collect your little pieces of your soul.
No.
And pay more attention when you're being a tourist.
Maybe. Anyway, back to this fun guy. What you need to know about him is he loves two things in this life: mountaineering and poetry.
Me too, except for not mountaineering.
Yeah. They're very crucial to his story in that they kind of are two things that kind of come up again and again no matter what's sort of happening in his life. So something that he was kind of known for was a collection of poems that was titled White Stains, which, yes.
Okay.
Which is to do with masturbating and sex, and that was released in 1898. And some have said that there are homoerotic tones or messages, themes and stuff in this collection of poetry.
I already know that there are, and I haven't even read it.
Well, do you want me to read you some? Because I've got a selection. This section that I'm going to read, some people say that it's homoerotic. Some people say that it's not. I'm just going to read it. It's poetry. It's up to your interpretation unless the author has stated. So here we go. You crown me king and queen. There is a name for those whose soft sound I would abandon all. This pomp. I liefer would have had you call some soft, sweet title of beloved shame. Gold coronets be seemly, but bright flame I choose for diadem. I would let fall all crowns, all kingdoms, for one rhythmical caress of thine. One kiss my soul to tame. You crown me king and queen. I crown thee lover. I bid thee hasten, nay, I plead with thee. Come in this thick, dear darkness to my bed. Heed not my sighs, but eagerly uncover, as our mouths mingle my sweet infamy, and rob thy lover of his maidenhood. Which it reads very nicely.
I mean, I was not convinced of homoeroticism until the pronoun his.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, it's clear.
Well,
he's begging a man to come into his bed.
That's what I thought, but then people are like, oh, he's referring to himself in third person. And I was like,
that feels very like the lengths
I know
straight people will go to deny queer people in history. They're writing a love poem and they're talking about themselves in third person.
I mean,
that's a gross oversimplification. I'm sure a lot of poetry scholars have a lot more context into this, but I would say that if it was not objectively written homoerotically, readers would be able to glean that from that poetry.
I think so. And what, as well, to add some more information to this poem, during this time that it was being written, he was at Trinity College. It was during his time at the Cambridge place, which I was also at.
Based on a map that I looked up.
Yeah. And he was intimate with this guy called Herbert Charles Jerome Pollitt, which Nepo baby name if ever I've heard one.
I'll say so.
And he was known as a patron of the arts in retrospect, and he was also at the time an onstage female impersonator. So this is who some speculate this poem is particularly written about. However, of course, we can't be sure.
I don't know, because there was a little, wasn't there the word maiden?
Yeah, maidenhead,
and then the pronoun his.
Yeah,
sounds like it could be done on purpose.
Perhaps.
Talk to gender.
Perhaps. I mean, that we're unsure of, but something we are sure of is the fact that he shortly and quickly during his time at Trinity College joined a secret society. That we know 100%.
Well, it mustn't have been very secret then, if that's what we know for sure.
Well, that's what I was thinking the whole time. It was anyway. So he joined the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn in
I love that secret society.
I know, it's one of my favorite secret societies. And he did that in 1898. And it was known as a magical order because some secret societies were obviously not, they weren't they weren't occultists. They weren't, based in mysticism or religion or whatever. They were just like this kind of group of people who were secretly gathering. I don't know what they were doing, but so it was very important for them to, position themselves as a magical order, and they studied occult hermeticism and metaphysics. So let's just quickly go through what that means, because I think it's important to understand the basis of this so we can understand how this guy took such crazy turns. So Hermetic philosophies are philosophies that in general believe in a god that is like basically the nature of the cosmos, as well as being the creator of the said cosmos. So it's like this God made everything, but God also exists in everything. Some key sections of study or sections of kind of worship are alchemy, astrology, reincarnation, and rebirth. And a popular phrase that came out of Hermeticism and that sort of like trail of theology is as above, so below, which is a popular paraphrase of a verse from a cryptic text that was probably, I think from memory, first written in maybe an Arabic language, like a very, very early, like I don't even know when.
And that would make sense, because a lot of modern mysticism comes from, some of those like Persian mystics, Rumi, Sufism, and a lot of that work was in the Islamic Golden Age, translated into Arabic. So that would make sense.
Yeah, so that's really interesting, because I think as above, so below has also been co-opted by like Midwest emos, or like I don't know.
It sounds like it's begging for it. This
I think I saw you in my sleep.
What's his name? Beast 666 dash as dash above dash so below.
Yeah, which is really fun, because as above, so below, as it turns out, is also seen in the Rider-Waite Tarot deck,
which was illustrated by Patricia Coleman.
Pamela Coleman Smith, who lived
Pamela Coleman Smith, Pixie.
Yes, and she lived from 1878 to, why does it say 1878 to 1851? That's wrong on my behalf.
1951.
1951. Yeah, I was like, hang on, she's not Benjamin Buttoning. Yeah, so that's interesting, because I think it's a magician card that, she kind of took that philosophy as above, so below, and kind of remixed it in her illustration style. So,
I feel like Pamela Coleman Smith, for context,
was a queer person of color who illustrated the tarot deck. She rarely ever gets credited, and also she illustrated books for Bram Stoker and William Butler Yeats. So
pretty cool.
She was pretty cool. Basically, this order was really secretive at the time, and the consequences for sharing secrets or secrets being leaked were very harsh, and that sort of meant that maybe you would be completely ostracized. They would try and like sort of ruin your reputation in the public sphere. Like, it was pretty intense. And on the inside of this order, it was also very intense, because they did a lot of magical practices and rituals that incorporated drugs. And that was like their sort of main way into exploring the magical realms and ideas, were through drugs.
What kind of drugs?
They were like, I believe it was just whatever they could get their hands on, but like, they were doing a lot of like cocaine and heroin and like psychedelics and stuff like that. So during this period of time, when he was still sort of like in college, and it's still, what's the year, 1898, around that time, he became freaking obsessed with Scottish culture, frothed it, loved it. He took to wearing traditional Highland outfits, and he even went as far to buy a manor on the shore of Loch Ness.
I love, because as a fellow tartan enthusiast,
everyone looks good in tartan. I don't care about your politics or sex magic rituals. Like,
it's true.
Like, give me a good kilt and a kilt pin. Oh, I'm sold. During this time, he was not just wearing this outfit situation in Scotland when he was at his house, but he was also wearing it in London, in Cambridge. Imagine him walking around Trinity College in a full Highland getup. They'd be thinking that like what's that like Scottish where they come out and they play the bagpipes? What's it called? Like, they do it every year.
The tattoo,
yeah.
The military tattoo. But hang on, what would people in England have thought of someone in full Highland dress?
I tried to find that, and there wasn't much, because he was particularly libertine, and this is where for him, his reputation started to go a little bit sour within the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, because his reputation at this point had been kind of stereotyped into him being very, like not dandy like Oscar Wilde, but just quite, out there. He was openly bisexual, and his lifestyle was such that Yeats, who was in control of basically like how you progress through the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, refused to initiate Crowley into the second order. So he was kind of stuck at like first base. Yeats wouldn't let him get to second. I know. It's ridiculous. It's not a very democratic order, I will say that. Now, fast forward to 1904.
Right.
He's a bit older now, and he decides to marry a woman by the name of Rose Edith Kelly in a marriage of convenience, because apparently he wanted to prevent her from an arranged marriage. And shortly after this, they took off and went traveling between the years of, I guess they went quite a few times. He's kind of coming across as like a Nepo baby. So they were just traveling,
That's
left,
kind of
right,
nice.
center. Quite nice, quite, like.
He like just married this woman out of her precarious situation. Hopefully he was not an asshole to her.
Well, not sure, because he was quite open with like how he lived his life. Like I couldn't tell from what I read that he was sort of like going behind her back. But, I do want to say I don't think this guy's very nice, but he has led an interesting life. So let's hope that Rose was aware of what he was doing. But while they were on their honeymoon in Cairo, he began to develop his own religion, because he kind of got cock-blocked by the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. He was really into drugs. He loved like that kind of exploration of life, and he denounced his Christianity. He really didn't agree with it, and he was really looking for something else. And this is when he began to develop his own sort of system of thinking and theology. So
I feel like this story is one I've heard so many times when people have just dated a guy in a band.
Really?
Yeah. When they're starting their own thing.
Like the guys are really just like
they weren't getting my creative expression, so we had creative differences. So now I've actually been hanging out just in my parents' basement. I'm starting my own thing. It's going to be huge. If you want to join me for the ride. Otherwise, get fucked.
It's so true. Again, if you just don't see the same way, like, the guys, I don't care that we've known them for like 10 years. Like, they just got to go. I think we're just growing apart.
Yeah, that's what it's like. Creative process.
Literally. He wasn't in a basement. He just like had this room in the place that they were staying where he set up a temple, and he called it.
I stick with the band analogy. How annoying would it be if you've just married a guy, next minute he's exploring his own religion, you go to sleep, you wake up the next morning, and he's rearranged your furniture into a temple.
Yeah, basically. And then he goes, babe, get this, I'm evoking the spirits and deities of ancient Egypt. Like, what would you do? That's nice, lady. I'll have a cappuccino, thanks. Like, what? So anyway,
go off.
King.
Cool.
So this is what he's doing. Got a temple room, and he's like, I'm going to invoke ancient Egyptian deities. And apparently, during this ritual that he had, done, the god Horus appeared.
Cool.
Sick. So that's the first like real moment for him in his spiritual journey. He's like, it's basically one of the first deities or gods that he's come into contact with, that has been present during a ritual. And so he writes it down as he's like writing a lot of this stuff down, and decides in the next few days, let's check out a museum, as you do. So they go to a museum, like an exhibit on, that was numbered 666, that of the beast.
Okay.
And he said, which I thought was quite important. Now, that's not verbatim, but he did say like he took note because he thought that it was interesting that he'd been sort of led to this exhibit. And after that, he really took this as a sign. He really took this as a very strong sign from the universe, or at the time, I'm not sure who he was particularly like worshipping. And he decided to write the Book of the Law, which proclaimed that humanity was entering into a new eon, and that Crowley would serve as a prophet, which, as we know, is a very, very common line for people who are swept up in concerning ways of thinking. We see it a lot with modern cults, where there's a leader who has ideology that's not particularly perhaps based in proven science and things like that.
Mm-hmm,
So this was kind of where things became concerning. Now, he stated that a supreme moral law was to be introduced, and the phrase, do what thou wilt shall be done of the law, which basically meant that people should learn to tune in to their will, like their one true will and the one true truth of the universe. And basically, after he had really put pen to paper and got all of this out, he decided that he wanted to put a pause on this. It was a lot for him. He was unsure of what to do with the book of the law. And he's actually said that he often resented it. And he said that he ignored the instructions which the text commanded him to perform, which were as follows. The text commanded him to steal this stele of revealing from the museum, which was part of the exhibit that he went and saw that time. There was like a monument there, I don't know what it exactly was, but he saw it. And again, that kind of confirmed to him what he should do. And so this text that he had then gone to write said, no, you should go take that from the museum. That's yours. That's just colonist bullshit, in my humble opinion. But that was the first thing.
So he wrote down his own text, which then sort of came alive in a sense and haunted him.
Yes.
And told him to do things.
Yes.
Okay.
And so the first thing being steal the thing that he saw in the exhibit in Cairo. Then he should go and fortify his own island. So basically like set up camp somewhere. And then once he's there with his monument with a fortified island, he should translate the book into all of the world's languages so that everyone's able to find their will. So this guy is starting to lose touch a little bit, in my opinion.
I'll say so. I also think there's just some just real innate white privilege in this idea that like you're just jotting down your thoughts, writing your dream diary. All of a sudden you're claiming an island.
Yeah, it's Delulu. He's fully just like not with it. He's just, anyway. So this honeymoon period ends. He's put down the book of the law. He said, you know what? I've just got to let this go. It's not time for me. Like, it's just not the right time. I'll come and revisit it when I'm ready. And he decided to go mountaineering in Nepal. And he has struggled with his community in England with the Trinity College folks, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. He's been kicked out basically from there. Lots of drama back and forths. Like William Yeats is like, yes, no, hot, cold, hot, cold. It's like worse than Katy Perry. And he's gone mountaineering in Nepal, and he doesn't have very good OHS standards either, because he's basically forced some people to go past the limits of safety on this exhibition, and he gets them killed. He also suffers physical ailments. And
how, like, when we're talking about mountaineering, are we talking about Everest here?
No, it was another big mountain. Like, it's just at the time, this is like 1905, 1906. Like, they haven't even probably discovered snowshoes, or at least they haven't stolen them from native communities. So, you know, they can't really like get up this mountain very well. He's gone, no, it's all right, guys. I've come on. These people die. 4 people are killed on this this mountaineering trip, and mountaineering community hate him. They're like,
yeah,
you've dogged us, bro. Like, you've killed some of our brothers. Like, he basically gets...
How did he recruit these people?
They were kind of friends. Like, he was in this, again, mountaineering community. Like, he just weasels his way into everything. And
it sounds to me if there's a secret society, this guy's going to try and get an invite.
Yeah, literally.
Even if it's a mountaineering club.
Yeah, it's like the Victorian version of run clubs. And so he is basically told, like, fuck off. Like, don't, like, you can't run one of these again because you've just gotten 4 people killed. Like, and these were like, a couple of them were experienced, you know, climbers. And
then how did this guy get them killed? Because
he told them it was safe and that they would be okay to climb, and they followed him.
I don't want to victim blame, but you shouldn't listen to some random occultist that comes in and says, don't worry, bro, it's okay to climb.
I think he's got +4 in charisma. I think he's like risen them, basically. He's just very persuasive. So he goes, fine, all right, whatever, like, I'll go, I guess. And he spends some time with family. He travels around more, and he wrote another book, The Scented Garden.
Okay.
And this book was part mystical text, part homoerotic parody, and it was arguably actually one of the first English works of explicitly gay literature. But it wasn't really considered like part of like classic literature canon because it was a parody. It wasn't like a serious, hot take on anything.
Yeah.
And he then sailed to Japan and Canada before continuing to New York City, where he unsuccessfully solicited support for a second expedition. And I'm like, I wonder why.
This guy's going again.
Yeah. So all of this traveling has really burnt a hole in his pocket, and it's 1907 now. He was trying to earn some more money. He wanted to get back out there in the world. And so he actually was hired by a guy named George Montague Bennett, the Earl of Tankerville, to help protect him from witchcraft. This guy's just like hustling for any money that he can get, but he just won't go and work at a CVS. Like he's just like, he's like, how can I get some money? I will prey on other Nepo babies with more severe paranoia than me. Which is what he did. And
there's so many other easier ways to get money. Or maybe there's not. Maybe
I don't
there's
know.
not. Like, he's just like, hi, these are my skills. I can save you from witchcraft. And they're like, I'm actually good. My garden needs a hoeing. He's like, can't do it.
I can't do it. No, you're definitely
just the witchcraft
cursed.
thing.
I've sensed it. And so he took advantage of this guy's paranoia, particularly because this man was also addicted to cocaine. And so what did Crowley do? He was like, I got you. Let's go on a holiday to France and Morocco. And that's what's going to really cure you of your witchcraft issue. So,
I mean, kind of
like
already I'm just getting just like the idea of like this guy just coked up, making his own religion. Like, I wish I could say I haven't met the equivalents of this guy in my time.
Listen, there's 1 in 5 people of every sharehouse in Fitzroy fit this description.
Literally.
So after he left that post, he hung out at his place in Scotland. He had a lot of sex. He took a lot of drugs, and he also wrote a lot. At this time was when he started to really get into sex magic rituals. And so that basically for him, what that meant was taking a lot of drugs, performing sex acts and calling it magic. And I'm sure, again, we've all had a date where someone's turned around and said, wow, that was really magical. So it's basically the same thing. Now, again, he hasn't returned back to the Book of the Law, but instead he's decided to make another occult society. Can't let it go. He's just drawn in by this. Like, I think he just really needs to find community. And for him, this is just in secret societies, which I have respect for. This one.
He needs to understand, though, if you are going to join a secret society, the point is to find community. And in order to find community, you have to have a level of like
decency,
kindness and decency and the interest in chatting to other people. You can't just go around recruiting people for your batshit travels, letting them die, and then trying to start again.
Thank God he doesn't have a ukulele. So this society was called AA. The interesting thing about it is it's A, and then there's like a triangle made out of dots, and then another A, and then a triangle made out of dots. You picture that how you want, but that's basically how it's written down. And I'm like, can we just drop it? Can it just be AA? Like,
well, that's already a thing.
I know, which is why I'm like,
so it's A triangle dot.
Yeah, but I will not be saying that.
Got it.
So this group's headquarters and its temple, because obviously that's where the temple is, was situated at 124 Victoria Street in central London, which if you've got everything and a postcode, it's not a secret society in my opinion. And the rights for this were really borrowed from the Golden Dawn. I think he was still salty from his issues that he had with that secret society. But this time it had a thelemic basis. Now, themalism or thelemism, there's a lot of hard letters in that word. This comes up later and I don't really want to like get into it at this point in time, but this was sort of part of his personal theology and like the way he kind of went about things. So he's starting to add his own personal flair to it. Now, in November of 1909, Crowley became increasingly frustrated with his wife, Rose, because she had an alcohol addiction and he divorced her on the grounds of his own adultery. So he obviously had been committing lots of sex acts. He had lived a libertine lifestyle and Rose had sort of come along, for the journey with him. They did have a child who was quite like, insignificant to the story, which I wasn't why I've omitted them. And he was like, babe, I can't do this. It's me, not you. And divorced her.
I wonder how often that did happen because that was the only way to get a divorce.
Yeah.
At times is to prove adultery. So I wonder, I guess in that sense, it's really easy to get a divorce. You just have to cheat on your partner and then you get one.
I guess so. And then, come out about it. Now, their child Lola was entrusted into Rose's care and the couple remained friends and Rose continued to live at his Scottish estate. Now, her battle with alcohol addiction worsened and as a result she was actually institutionalized in September 1911, which is really awful and sad. Not to Crowley though, because he got to run free and just continue performing those sex rituals, drug rituals, his cocaine addiction, and he at this point began to garner a lot of attention in the press.
I feel like even today this guy would get cancelled.
Yes. I feel like you'd love to hate him, In
a sense, but I feel like there is a strong trajectory from inspirational figure, secret society or cult around that figure, and then sexual abuse.
I was just about to name some celebrities, but I don't want to make allegations. So
Best not, but no. there's a commonality between a lot of these stories.
Yes, unfortunately. Now, at the time, he went on from developing his own, practices, his own occultism, rituals, whatnot. He decided that he would like to make a claim in the English language, and he said Magik, spelled Magic. That means the performance of magical stage illusions, because of course Houdini and stuff like that was sort of becoming popular.
Like a magician.
Magicians. And he's like, no, we're not those fools. We're real magicians.
Yeah.
We can't spell it with a C anymore. It has to be spelled with a K. So it went from...
So he's the guy that came up with that distinction.
Yes.
Oh.
So that's really interesting.
I like that.
It's quite cool, and I think it's, it's one of those things I'm like, oh no, that makes total sense, to get more specific with language. But so, 1913, this is kind of 1911, sorry, this is what he was doing, really paying attention to how we were using the English language. So thanks, Shakespeare, I guess. In 1913, he took a little diversion. He needed some money and he became a stage producer. And
again, there's just so many easier ways to earn an income. Like,
can you see why this guy took like a month to figure out?
Yeah, I just like even today, like if you want a career in theatre, that's like
go to VCA.
Well, that's like a difficult career to get into, you know what I mean? Like you have a real passion to get into a career in the theatre and you have to sacrifice a lot. Like versus, I don't know, becoming an engineer.
Listen, I don't know. This guy,
or like building stuff.
I don't know what he was thinking, but he was just like, I would like to spend some time on the stage. The stage is
That I
calling
get.
So he was a producer for the Ragged Ragtime Girls, a group of female violinists. So it's not even like a musical, like no hate to the violinists, but he really niched down there. And they performed at London's Old Tivoli Theatre, which is quite a nice venue. Can't say I looked at that on a map and went there.
You're like, I've been there. I'm getting so many parallels between this story and our Oscar Wilde episode.
Yeah, it is really interesting. It is really interesting that you say that.
Oh, where's this going?
Somewhere. Now,
it's going to Cambridge.
It's going to Cambridge.
You checked the map.
Yes, I did. I have mapped it and it is quicker if we go with tollway. So I hope you're okay paying that fee. Now, During his time as this stage producer with the 4 violinists, or sorry, excuse me, I don't know if there was 4. That's a presumption on my part. He reconnected with a man named Victor Newberg, who was a guy he'd gone to the desert with and done sex magic with. So just as in context, I feel like I'm retelling like a date story.
To me, it just sounds like somebody's like dating app profile or something.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you into? Sex magic.
And deserts.
And
Yeah.
yeah.
And
What an ex.
I know.
He's not, we were not together. He's just some guy you did sex magic in the desert with. Get over it, babe.
Yeah, literally. Now, they joined forces. I don't know why I wrote it like that. In a sexual ritual magic operation.
Sounds like they did join forces.
Yeah, known as the Paris Working. And this was a period of intense ritual involving strong drug use, which they invoked the gods of Mercury and Jupiter, for. They were like, listen, I'm not sure. It was very complicated. And Newberg distanced himself from Crowley eventually because he said, and I quote, Crowley cursed him. So again, 1 in 5 people in a Fitzroy share house have also said that.
I feel like it's just very like what happens in the desert stays in the desert.
Yeah.
We'll never know for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to go on. Listen, there's a lot. See, what I'm saying is I've written down the very top line, but in my mind, I know like the A to Z like thing of what they did. Like I don't like it needs to leave me at some point. So I do want to continue.
I'm so
on.
sorry that you know that what they did
In the desert?
in the desert.
It should have stayed between them. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. With
yeah.
the sands of time.
Yes. God. Ew. Sand getting everywhere. Oh, sorry. No. I hate sand. Do you like sand?
Yeah, I like sand. I've slept in the Sahara.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, so you weren't going to tell me that you had looked at a map and also found that and been
Well, see,
there.
the interesting thing about me is when I hear someone referring to the desert, I can access my memories of being in that place without the help of mapping where they were and then realizing I too have been there on a map.
Sometimes we've both been to a lot of places, Hannah. I can't trust my memory anymore. I have to look at the map. I have to check, did I pin any cafes in that area? Because that will tell me I've been there.
Because you've been there. Well, I'll tell you, there's not many cafes in the Sahara, but it is a beautiful sunset.
I would like to go, but
Sunrise.
I would like to go, but I'm scared of like sandstorms.
Yeah.
Darude taught me that.
Yeah, it's true. I think you would actually hate it. As someone who hates sand and sandstorms, the Sahara is not for you. Also, you might get a migraine and you'd be cooked. So
Yeah. You spoke about Oscar Wilde.
I did at length.
At length. There was a whole episode on that. Check it out if you haven't. But I bring him up again because something you didn't mention, you talked about you talked about what he said on his deathbed. Yes. Which was something
he's at war with the wallpaper. One of them has to go.
Okay. You didn't speak about his grave though. Now I will ask you this.
I've been to his grave.
Have you been to his grave?
I looked on a map.
Can you describe his grave? What tell me about it.
A lot of people had put lipstick on and kissed it.
Ew.
Yeah, that was a thing. And there were like, people had like written things on it. But I remember it was a bit of a thing that people.
But it's not just a gravestone. It's not just a headstone.
No, it's a full thing. It's got like a statue on it.
Okay. That was really what I was asking you to describe, but it's okay. You told me about the lipstick, which really tells me a lot about you. So thanks for sharing. Yes, I'm sure people were kissing it, which you do you. I'm not going to yuck your yum. But this grave was not just like a regular gravestone. It was a statue that was commissioned. It's like this big demonic flying demon angel thing, which kind of looks almost a little bit like Egyptian. I wouldn't say that it is. I could not confirm if it is. I'm not, unfortunately, an archaeologist, despite my best efforts at 7 years old. But it was made by this guy called Jacob Epstein. He was a 28-year-old New Yorker, and he was this kind of prolific sculptor. He worked with a lot of stone, and he would sculpt out shapes, and Oscar Wilde wanted him to make his grave. So
I have one piece of information to slip in there about the kissing.
Yes.
The lipstick. Apparently there's so many kisses on Oscar Wilde's tomb that the lipstick is eroding the stone.
Really?
Yeah, so the kiss of death.
Oh, God.
Anyway, carry on.
I'm just wondering, Why kisses? He doesn't seem like a kissing guy.
He did write a line that was, "A kiss may ruin a human life."
Oh.
So
Okay.
there is that. But I also think it's probably a little bit more about how things that he wrote ended up in inspirational quotes and posted to early Instagram.
Live,
and,
laugh, love.
Yeah, and the
Oscar
girlies
Wilde.
loved it.
Yeah.
I think maybe there's a bit of that.
I mean, fair enough. Now this thing was massive. It was like, I don't know how big it was, but just imagine like, I'm thinking like, yeah, I mean, you've been there. Why am I talking like you've not been there?
Yeah, here, I'll show you a photo of it.
I mean, I know what it looks like. I was just wondering how, okay, so it's about like 12 feet tall, I'd say.
Yeah, it's pretty big.
Yeah, it's massive. And the folks in Paris at this time, they weren't having it. They were like, this thing's got a penis. Get rid of it. Like, it's not very, like, this is a cemetery, guys. Like, we can't be having this in here. And they actually put it under arrest. They put the statue under arrest.
Wait.
I know.
Wait.
They put this statue under arrest and they said,
For having a penis.
for being indecent and immodest. And they said, it can stay. We will drop charges as long as you put a codpiece on it. As long as as long as you cover it up.
So there's something beautifully ironic about Oscar Wilde being like jailed for gross indecency and then his statue being arrested for the same thing.
Yes. And so they were like, no, that's all right. We can do that. We can put a codpiece on it. But it will be a bronze butterfly. We will put a bronze butterfly on this statue's penis and you will accept it, Paris. And Paris said, okay. So
to be honest, yeah, they just said what they needed. They weren't going to dictate the how, just the what.
Yeah, exactly, which I appreciate the creative freedom. So the codpiece was put on and this is where Crowley comes back into it. On August 1914, in the dead of night, Crowley entered under the cover of darkness into the cemetery. And he said this, I detached the butterfly and put it under my waistcoat. The gatekeeper did not notice how portly I had become. When I reached London, I put on an evening dress and affixed the butterfly to my own person in the same way as it was previously affixed to the statue, in the interest of modesty, and then marched into the Café Royal to the delight of the assembled multitude. Epstein himself happened to be there, and it was a glorious evening. So he like rolls into this cafe with the bronze butterfly on his like pelvis, his nether regions, and he's like, yeah, the boys. Yeah.
Wait, so okay, the blow by blow is a statue was created to go on Oscar Wilde's grave. The city of Paris arrested the statue for indecency. A bronze butterfly codpiece was stuck on the statue's penis and the charges were dropped. And then in the dead of night, this guy comes in, steals the codpiece, and then wears it to a bar where the statue's creator was. Incredible.
And because he was like, the thing was, he kind of knew Oscar Wilde and he, like, they were kind of on again, off again drama, like a little bit. Like, because Crowley like traveled too much to sort of like get super involved with people's lives unless they were like in these secret societies that he was in, which Oscar Wilde, to our knowledge, wasn't. So he didn't really form this super crazy good friendship with him, but like they knew each other. And being libertine himself, although not a dandy, like, you know, Crowley was like kind of obviously, I guess, probably upset that Oscar Wilde had died and that his statue was not being like respected in death. And so
I mean, I guess they both liked
being silly.
Yeah, and also kind of mysticism. I mean, both were like born kind of devout Christians, and then kind of looked like Oscar Wilde was obsessed with kind of like the Greek mythology.
Yes.
And that. So I imagine there was like some, you know, they were kindred spirits in a sense, but probably too much main character energy on both parts for them to be true friends.
Yeah, and like what's really funny is when I like was looking up like Oscar Wilde and Aleister Crowley like stuff, heaps of people were saying that like Aleister Crowley is like the discount version of like Oscar Wilde because he just kind of looks like Oscar Wilde but like not as good.
Yeah.
like fashion
okay.
wise, which is really funny.
To me, he's just like, he's the kind of the emo version.
Yeah, a bit. Yeah. Like if Oscar Wilde's like indie rock, then or like indie folk, then like Aleister Crowley is like emo.
Okay, wait. So Oscar Wilde is Chapel Roan and Aleister Crowley is Jojo Siwa.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes, I endorse that statement.
Okay, good.
So at this point in time, he has been flouncing around. He's been in Paris quite a lot. And this sort of dabble in the darkness in the cemetery to retrieve this codpiece from the statue was perhaps his first, how would I phrase this? His first tiptoe into the space of being a spy. And I want to leave everyone on a little bit of a cliffhanger. So what I will say is, Hannah, what started in 1914?
World War One.
World War One. And Crowley found himself leaving Britain and taking up a position in America. And that's where I will leave everyone for this week.
Oh my God. Also, I just like love the idea that this guy who loved secret society so much, he wanted to get even more secret. And like the most secret you can get is literally being a spy.
Well, yeah. And like, this is the thing. I don't want to, I'm literally not going to say anything about the spying and
okay, I'm trying
like
to drag it out of you. Yeah,
You're not going to drag it out of me. What I will say though, is that he doesn't die until like late 1940s, early 50s. I have to check his death date. But like, so we're talking about 1914. He still has a huge chunk of life to live. And boy, does he live it.
This is honestly everything that I could have wanted. And the codpiece detour is incredible.
Yeah, I'm really excited to tell the rest of his story in the next episode because it does become a bit contentious. His politics, obviously during wartime, were both at the time and retrospectively quite divisive. And so I will be interested to get into that. But there's more little tidbits and more traveling and more sex rituals and whatnot. And so you'll just have to wait till next week.
If you want to check us out on social media at Rainbow History Class. And we would love for you to DM us with your thoughts on this episode, or you can jump into the Discord.
Yes, which you have to jump into, don't you?
Yes, I will be jumping in there very soon to chat and say hello to you all. But until next week, please, if you are still listening this far into the episode, we would really love it if you leave a review, subscribe to this podcast.
I'm telling you, this is like our 20th episode. I don't know. We've been doing this since February. If you've been listening, if you've listened to more than one episode, you owe us a review. Pay the piper. Leave a review, please. This is me being like a firm friend. Okay? Go drink some water, have a delicious snack, and by the time you've had the third bite, I better see a review. I better see one.
I agree. Thank you, Rudy. But until next week, I'll leave you with some words, and that is, not everything is gay, but gay infiltrates everything, including the secret society near you.
I thought you were going to say the Sahara Desert.
There's gay there too. And sand. Let's wrap it up.
Bye.